Hey, Juventini, welcome back to the All Juvecast. This is going to be episode 147, and we are, for those of you that just follow on audio, we are recording live, and the episodes are recorded live on YouTube. If you want to take part in the live discussions, by all means, subscribe to the channel and get over there. It's called Live at 5 because it's pretty much always taking place at 5 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Today, to recap this 3-0 victory against Spezia, I have Rob and Colin joining me. Guys, how you doing?
Pretty good now.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Colin didn't get too deep into the Guinness yesterday for the match.
No, I actually, I took it handy.
There we go. There we go. Well, guys, this was a much better one to talk about than the draw against Verona. We got a lot to talk about, actually, and it really kicked off from the starting lineups because, we've got a horrible injury list as it stands. You're getting ready to watch this match. Out of nowhere, I saw the tweet from Mirko Di Natale, actually, saying that De Ligt will not play. And I'm thinking, what the hell did I miss? And sure enough, had a knock against Verona, re-aggravated it in warm-ups. And it just seems par for the course right now with Juve. So De Ligt has to go out, and then it becomes a question mark of who's going to jump in there. Frabotta ends up coming in to round out the lineup. So the lineup being Szczesny in goal, Danilo, Demiral, Sandro, and now Frabotta across the back with Chiesa, Bentancur, Rabiot, and McKennie in the middle with Kulishevsky and CR7 up top. I did think, and we were seeing hints of Pirlo attempting 4-3-3 in training sessions and whatnot. And I thought possibly this was going to be the game we might see it, especially when you saw both lineups, even with Frabotta in there. I thought we might see that. A lot of shouts hoping Fagioli would play. We know he's dealing with an illness, probably still isn't physically capable. I thought if he was, this would probably be, even though it was going to be a trickier match, a good chance to see him. But the De Ligt thing was just, at this point, it's become comedy. With the amount of it, like there comes a point you just gotta sit back and laugh because it's like, what can you really do? And the fans that keep pounding on Pirlo and the criticism and whatnot. This list, I've never seen anything like it, and I just laughed when I saw this thing with De Ligt because what else can you really do? But what did you guys think of the lineup when De Ligt goes out? Frabotta comes in. There were some shouts, probably Bernardeschi over him or whatnot. But let's start off with you, Rob. What do you think of the lineup? Did you think we were going to see a 4-3-3? Oh, I can't actually get your audio through, Rob. No, maybe we'll get Colin on your thoughts.
Yeah,
handles that.
Quick answer to that: no, I didn't think we were going to see a 4-3-3. I see why people maybe want it and could interpret it from the lineup because the players are certainly there to do it. But no, I think it would have been too much of a kind of a change, really, and the players may have had to just maybe they wouldn't have had time to work on it. Do you know what I mean?
You think it's too much of a change in terms of roles that the players would have to, just that slight shift?
It's just in general, like, I mean, when you're changing formations and your tactical setups, like, you kind of need a bit of time to work on it. And like, we barely even have time to train. It's kind of like a game, probably 12 hours rest, then some training, and then you're almost straight into pre-game training. The day after. It's a very hectic schedule, as everybody knows.
Yeah.
But I mean, can they do it? I think they can do it, but there's some I mean, there's some limitations, I suppose. I mean, 4-3-3, I think, would suit us up top, insofar as Chiesa actually, he looks like he could play on the right side of a trident quite easily. Then you have, like, if you have Morata in the middle, that looks fun. Then it looks, two players slot into it quite easy. But Ronaldo, then obviously he's going to play on the left. That's probably his favorite role, the role he's played most of his career. But how do you?
I think that's what the shout is. I think it's while I understand the roles change and whatnot, but I think it's that feeling that it becomes a bit more natural for more of the players, as opposed to Pirlo's shift and transitions and whatnot. Might be, it's almost like they're thinking 4-3-3 just is a bit more simplistic for the players in terms of positioning as well and what they need to do. But I see both sides there on that one. I honestly thought this would probably be the one where we'd start to see it. And Chiesa being so dangerous, especially against Verona, one of our most dangerous players, I thought maybe, you unleash it against a team like Spezia, because it is a trickier match or whatnot. But in terms of testing it necessarily against Lazio, you probably don't want to test something against Lazio. You want to be ready or whatnot. So probably could have seen it being the one. Rob, I hope the audio's got back.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Excellent.
Now. Awesome. So your thoughts on the starting lineup?
Yeah, I agree. I didn't expect to see 4-3-3 just yet either. I think no problem trialing it in training and trying to get the team used to it. But I don't think he particularly strikes me as a coach that's going to start panicking and looking to change things up unless he can do it incrementally.
Yeah.
That being said, I mean, with the lineup as it was, it changes a bit when you lose De Ligt before. And obviously, when you see that Frabotta's coming in, Sandro is going to start playing probably his first or second game as a left-sided centre-half coming in there. It does sort of give you a little bit of fear. The only experience at the back is Demiral.
Yeah.
And although I'm a big fan of McKennie, I don't like him in that hybrid role. Left midfield coming into the number 10. I just don't like. I don't think it suits him particularly. Don't think it works to his strengths. It doesn't enable him to impact the game as much as he could do. But as you said, injuries, it is what it is. We've only got X amount of fit players. We've got a lot of games coming up, and we've got to try and make best of what is quite a difficult situation.
Yeah. I want to ask you guys about Dragusin. Did you think maybe pull in Dragusin and just keep Sandro as that left back?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, again, it might come down to a bit of experience, and maybe if we'd been on a roll the last few weeks and we're winning game after game after game, that might have probably been something which we could have looked at. Maybe he's at a stage where he's thinking, I've got to go for my tried and trusted, even if his tried and trusted are somewhat unreliable. But it's probably something which he's aiming for at the moment. I'll pass it over.
Because I don't know, I'm just thinking, sometimes it seems like there's, and again, going back to just keeping it simple, Dragusin is a center back, you got one going out. It is Spezia. Play him in the middle of the park. I think, honestly, what it came down to is just trust. I think Pirlo would rather trust Sandro in that middle next to Demiral rather than have Demiral and Dragusin both in the heart of that defense. I think that's what it ultimately comes down to. But we'll talk about Sandro, center back position. We'll talk about midfield. We'll get to it all after these highlights. So in terms of the lineup, again, guys, we kind of nailed it. There's so many injuries and whatnot. And then adding the De Ligt one to the mix is what it is. Some of these guys in the lineup we still know aren't fully fit, McKennie being one of them. And he made his way through this match. But number one, you can notice, like Rob was saying, even when he's on that left side, I think we can all agree it's not quite the same. For whatever reason, when he comes off the right as that attacking mid, it's different. It seems to just work a little bit more fluid. On the left side, it's a little more broken up. I'm not really sure why, because we have a couple players like that, that for whatever reason on that side, it changes. So it's still trying to put that together. He's one of them, but he's also noticeably off due to the hip, that hip injury that seems to be nagging. But we'll get to the highlights. We'll go through the first half. Honestly, in the first half, not a bunch. Kind of come out a little bit back and forth, which was a little surprising for this match with Spezia. 6 minute, a good chance falling to Spezia. They go just wide of the goal there. 7th minute, a minute later, like I said, it was a bit back and forth early. Juve make a nice move up the flank. Kulusevski makes a nice cut inside. Just shot gets blocked. It falls to Rabiot up at the top. Tried to settle it and then take a shot. It gets blocked as well. But again, a little back and forth. Chiesa gets sent in. Akers offside. But they're letting everything play out now for whatever reason. So he goes in. Which is really, really strange. When you look it back, it's way offside. But I don't know why they're letting that. But it is what it is. 9th minute, Rabota, who enters the match due to the Delict injury, just a silly challenge out on the side. And like, that's just nonsensical, And then you've given yourself a yellow card now 9 minutes into a match, and my God, if we talk about the consistency of the officiating in Serie A, to get a yellow in 9 minutes, you are walking a tight line.
For sure.
For the rest of that match. Shocking stuff there from Rabota, in my opinion. Not enough people were talking about it, but that's the kind of stuff that's a difference in having faith in a guy and not, And in my opinion, Bernardeschi was ahead of him anyways, in terms of what you would get between the two. But you see stuff like that, and for me, it's just that's infuriating. And I don't even know what to say when I see a challenge like that, But anyways, he gets that easy yellow card. We continue on 20. Really, we hit this lull after about opening, 8 to 9 minutes, a little back and forth. Then there's this lull where it's just kind of really, really slow tempo. We had quite a few giveaways in the middle of the park. Rabiot, victim of a few. Bentancur a couple, but not as many. McKennie struggling a bit. He's doing okay, but just not a whole bunch. Towards the end, Juve does start to turn it up a bit, and you kind of see that tempo. That tempo kind of shifted in the right direction. 35th minute is probably where I noticed that they turned it up a bit, and then 36th minute, we start getting a nice long ball to the back post to Chiesa, tries to direct it on goal, gets blocked by the defender. 37th minute, beautiful interception by Danilo as he steps in. He's there in a prime spot. I'm yelling, hit it. Hit it.
Yeah.
Trying to force, and this is my one thing that I tweeted in the first half is sometimes these guys, when we do get in those positions, I need more confidence from the guys that are on the ball to have a go and stop trying to force it. Stop trying to look at CR or anybody else for that matter. Have some faith in yourself and have a rip. At this one with Danilo, I was yelling shot all the way. What were you guys thinking?
Absolutely. I mean, that's been one of the big criticisms we've made over the last few games is the kind of overplaying things at times. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily... I suppose a guy like Danilo getting that far forward and he gets the ball, like, you probably shouldn't be thinking too complicated anyway. Just get the damn shot off and kind of see what happens or lay it off and get out of there, But
you're in that position. I mean, it's got to be simple. Like, we can't come out of it with just a pass that gets intercepted. You've got to challenge the keeper. You got to have some on target. Rob, you agree?
Yeah, it's about taking initiative. It's about taking ownership of what needs to be done. They too often look for the easy answer, which is to try and find Ronaldo so he doesn't shout at them if they don't. But you see with the Arturo deflected goal a few weeks ago, that's probably how many times do we take a shot from outside the area?
Yeah.
We never do. Or Ronaldo at the weekend has, I've lost track of thought now where he was against. He's taken takes a deflection. He gets on the end of the second cross, doesn't he? But again, it came from a shot from outside the area. No, but Bentancur's scared to do that. Rabiot does it. What, once every 10 games he has a go? He's not too bad from distance. No one does it. And I don't know whether it's because they're afraid to take the initiative, but they've got to step up. They're playing for Juventus. And it's just about that decision making. And, and as I said, if Cristiano shouts at you, Cristiano shouts at you.
Yeah.
If you're going to pay me £1 or £2, £3 million a year, you can shout at me as much as you want, but I'm going to take the initiative.
Yeah. As much as it is frustrating to see, I kind of like when Chiesa gives it back to Ronaldo. Like it's a weird thing, but it's like as a player,
he's usually like fucking whatever you want to say. I don't give a shit. And then he goes back to his position.
Like Chiesa makes a decision. I like that he's decisive about it, and he does it with conviction. So it's like if he wants to have a fucking go, he's gonna have a go. Yeah. And if Ronaldo gives it to him, he gives it back and he says, "Hey man, I'm in this spot. I'm taking a rip." And you know what? I respect that. I respect that. I don't respect like the other guys that just sit there and take it. It's like, no, if you have a line of sight and you have the confidence to have a go there, all the props to you. Like this is a team game, and like he's got to, there are opportunities where, we do need to get the ball to him and whatnot, but it's not every single play. And at the same time, while he's got to realize as a leader, he's got to build these guys up too, and he can't just shut them down and always sulk. And lately, if I'm being 100% honest, and if flack comes my way from the fanboys, it comes, but
fanboys assemble.
The attitude, man, the attitude from CR needs to pick up, man. Even in this one, thank God he found a goal in the 89th minute, because I thought we were going to see Pout Fest, all over again. Like he was the sulking. It kills me, man, from a guy that's, Cristiano fucking Ronaldo. Pick it up, man. The body language and the attitude has been something I've been struggling with personally with Ronaldo for a couple weeks now. Is that just me, or Rob? How do you feel?
Yeah, well, it's where on the line is it between pursuit of perfection and petulance, and I don't know where it is, because it's very fair enough. If you want every game to be perfect, you want to score every game, you want your name up in headlights. That's how he's got to where he is as a professional footballer, and he deserves credit for it. But we're in a team that is struggling now. I say we're struggling. Maybe I can say that with being a spoiled Juventus fan, but in context of recent years, we are struggling. We need all hands at the pump, and we need people to start playing as a team, and that means encouraging these young boys around you. Kulusevski's, I don't know, Chiesa gives it back, but Chiesa's, you've got to bring them with you. You can't just throw your hands up every 3 seconds because the goalkeeper makes a good save from your free kick, or because somebody hasn't put eye of a needle pass through 7 defenders to get to you at the far side. Just grow up, get on with it.
Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of like he's the guy that they're all looking to, and if it's going to be like that, that's not the attitude that you need. And to be honest, the opposite end of the spectrum here, you got a young up and coming kid, like Chiesa, who's actually showing you the attitude where it needs to be. And that's the part that I struggle with, is you have the established guy, the guy who's like the GOAT, Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah.
But he's got the attitude that's just not there anymore. And I can't help but feel like the honeymoon phase with Juve is over. You know what I mean? And that's how I honestly feel. I feel like that phase where he was here and he was bringing us up, I feel like now has turned to frustration when we start looking at that scale. we start looking at that scale of, how Rob mentioned, where is it at? And I can't help but feel the honeymoon phase is over, and now it's turned to frustration, whereas before it was urgent on, and, it was still in a positive manner, you could kind of see. Now it's turned to just, it looks a little sour, and maybe that's telling of the situation and frustration in number one, where they are in the standings. It could be a number of things, right? But it needs to pick up from him, in my personal opinion, the attitude. 41st minute, this is kind of where we wrap up first half. He actually gets played the ball by Kulishevsky on a counter up there, makes a nice quick move, quick hit, and unfortunately hits the post and comes back out. We kind of wrap up half at 0-0, and we get to our feelings at halftime. For me, there was too much of that half where we were just really, really flat. And when we play at that slow tempo, that's when I see Juve struggle the most, because everything is so labeled, everything is so predictable. It's easier for the opposition to set up, and we just do ourselves no favors. And we talk about some of the giveaways, some of the turnovers. And the reason is because everything is so slow and the off the ball movement is not there. So while a lot of people want to rag on the midfielders, there are opportunities, or there are instances where they get the ball and there's just not enough movement off of the ball. The options aren't there, and they get caught hanging on to it too long, and then they lose it. And I kind of feel their frustration when I'm watching that, because you look at it in certain instances, there's really nothing there for them to do unless they try to beat this guy. And you don't want your midfielders getting into 1v1s in the middle of the park. That's the last thing you want, because you lose the ball there. Where's it going? Right back at you. So it just, for me, too slow for much of the first half. But however, around the 35th minute, we picked it up. And it was the one thing I was asking for the guys in this match. I just wanted the positive attitude, the fight, and just to play with that, that conviction. And I saw it for the end of the first half. And I was just hoping in the second half, we could really crank it up. That's really, the first half was pretty much blah for the most part. But I want to get your guys' thoughts at halftime. Colin, how are you feeling at halftime?
Actually, I was feeling quite encouraged. I do agree with you about them being a bit flat, but I kind of put a good bit of it down to Spezia.
Yeah,
we were clearly going down Chiesa's wing in the first half, and we actually got a bit of joy there. But they very quickly doubled up and even had a midfielder covering the area as well, and that kind of slowed everything down and made things just very laboured, and Chiesa was forced back a little bit, and we didn't really adjust until the second half, as far as I could see. But the things that were encouraging me were they were tackling, they were pressing, they were putting themselves about, and like, I just kind of, I guess I just trusted that the actual tactical side of it would get worked out, that they'd figure out, okay, look, there is an option. Even if Chiesa is getting blocked off, there is an option somewhere. If they're doubling up here, that means there is space somewhere else. You just need to look for it. And they did. They switched to the opposite wing in the second half. But yeah, that's my halftime shout.
Rob, your thoughts at halftime?
Bored.
Yeah.
It was. I agree that there were encouraging signs. It was a Juve performance which I've seen far too often this season. The teams press us, make it difficult, and we haven't got any answers. And I think that we've got a system which Pirlo is trying to play, and I don't want to go in on Pirlo because I said he's had a lot of issues. Fact is, I don't think we've got the personnel right now to be implementing the system or the way of playing that he perhaps envisages. And that's for him to find solutions for. But it was all too often, and obviously Juventus Twitter was already sacked him 10 times before the second half had started, and Yeah, and yeah,
Watching a match while tweeting and watching a match just on your own or like is night and day, man. I swear you watch a different game. If you were to not go on Twitter, watch a half of football and then tune into Twitter, you would think, holy shit, I missed like the absolute worst game like ever for a half. But it's really not the case in most times. But again, I understand because I'm a pretty reactionary person too. When I watch and I get frustrated and upset. But there's always perspective, right? So but I did watch this one twice. I watched this match twice over, and the first half still left me feeling the same. So usually the thoughts I express on the pod here definitely are not my reactionary ones. They're more my perspective outlook after a second viewing. And this one, the first half, I still felt the same. A little too flat, a little too slow, and I couldn't help but agree with Rob there. Just a performance that we've seen to see a bit too often. There was some good things. Spezia, credit where it's due. They were finding the areas to flood to make it a bit broken up for us. And then we have to factor in guys that, again, are not full 100%. And that gets to the second half. 46 minute, real early in the half, McKennie tries to pounce on a back pass there. He taps it across. I don't know if he was trying to – I would assume he's not trying to tap it to goal, but just a crossover for another Juve player. I think there was Chiesa coming in wide there, but a defender easily cuts it out. And honestly, again, we picked up the tempo. The pace was there, but there wasn't a whole bunch coming from it. There wasn't a whole lot generating from it. And then 60th minute, we get a double substitution. You get Morata coming in for McKennie, who actually is visibly limping, like walking off very gingerly, and he goes straight down the tunnel. And that's an issue, and that sucks because that's the position we're kind of in right now. Is we are playing guys that probably wouldn't be under normal circumstances, and people have to kind of factor that in their criticisms of Pirlo and whatnot. That these guys just are nowhere. And then when you think that you can get a player in the lineup, he ends up getting the shits like Fagioli. So what do you really do? This is where we're at. Morata comes in for Big Mac. Bernardeschi comes in for Frabotta, and that was one that you could have possibly argued even at halftime you make because I think Bernardeschi gives you much more than Frabotta. Frabotta was on a yellow that he gave himself at 9 minutes in. So you make this change. Holy shit, it's not even a minute in. Not even a minute into this substitution, 61st minute. And we're playing the ball around. Bentancur knocks it back to Sandro. Sandro takes one quick look, sees Bernardeschi as 1v1, pops it over the top. The defender tries to settle it. He misses it. Bernardeschi pounces on it, puts it across goal. And Morata made a beautiful run from Morata where he feints going outside of the defender's back and then cuts immediately inside, short side, and slots home. 1-0, quickly waved off for offside. The paranoia in Morata is probably the funniest part about this offside because right away he looks and he's like, what? No, it's offside. No, they were obviously looking at Berna, his position on the wing, but it's funny to see how paranoid Morata is based on all these offsides. They look at it. VAR takes so long with this one, so it's very, very tight. It ends up getting counted, and you see the celebrations for this goal with Morata, the bench, Pirlo, and whatnot, and Marco even bringing it up here. Why isn't anyone talking about that celebration on the first goal? They embrace Pirlo. The belief in him is still there. It's up to the players to perform. It's up to everybody. Pirlo's not innocent. He's not free of criticism.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree. But I saw a notion that Pirlo had lost the players, lost the locker room. That's
BS. Not a hope. No.
Absolute nonsense. He hasn't lost anything. The one thing he will have and will steadily have is the players' belief. And I think some of the frustrations that people might be seeing at times is that ex-player from him because he's still he's not far off from his retirement and whatnot, if we're honest. And I think he shows at times so much faith in guys and belief, and still has that player's view on things, that it might be hindering him as a manager, but it's something that he's going to grow into. He's just got to understand. I think there's times, think about this, when you're calling for substitutions and you're waiting for Pirlo to pull that trigger. As a player, anyone that's played the game, you don't want to come off. You know, and I can't help but he thinks like, oh man, maybe he can turn this around, or maybe he can do him. I don't want to take him off too soon. I can't help but think he's having that battle in his mind most of the time.
Yeah.
And he's got to shut that down, right? But the belief in him is still there. This goal counts. We're 1-0 up. Man, what a difference those subs made. And Bernardeschi, honestly, man, kudos to him for the rest of the match. That was the 61st minute. 70th minute, we moved the ball quite nicely, and again the tempo. It was a quick look. There's the pass. It's made, and we move up the field nicely. We play it into the corner ball. Bernardeschi takes it. He has acres of space. He's running at the defender, and this is what I need to see from him against good opposition as well. The confidence to take his man on. So he does. He finds Chiesa, because all of a sudden, when he takes his man on, when he gets a step on him inside, what does it do? Another defender has to commit. So now all of a sudden, he's got options. Chiesa finds himself in a little pocket. He puts it to him. Chiesa, keeper, did a great job to stop the first one. And then Chiesa sticks with it, bangs in the rebound, 2-0. Beautiful. Beautiful goal. The tempo, the movement, Berna in an isolated 1v1 taking a guy on. Great. We're 2-0 up. Beautiful. Beautiful stuff. 71st, Ramsey comes in for Chiesa. Substitute him off now that we're 2-0 up. And honestly, good call there, because we're going to need him against Lazio. You got a 2-goal cushion against Spezia. Chiesa's been our best recently. Give him the minutes of rest there. 77th minute, CR7 with a free kick. Did anybody notice?
Yeah.
How much power he took off the kick to get that placement. I've been saying for a while, like, if he's going to be on them, he's got to figure his shit out, and you got to start placing the ball. This power thing and this knuckler or whatnot, like, those days are gone for him. He can't make it anymore. That shot's gone. And if you get the placement right, you don't need that much power, because the keeper's not going to be able to reach it. So this one just happened to be in the keeper's reach, but for God's sakes, at least he hit the target, and got it over the wall. So started to notice that maybe that technique and all these free kicks he's working on, which has been documented now, maybe Pirlo's saying, hey, why don't you dial it back on the power? Like, shit, change the technique. But anyways, nice to see him hit the target. Still sulking because a keeper stopped.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Regardless. 79th minute, we actually get a big block at the back. There was a couple of these. Demiral had a big block in the first half when Spezia kind of came at us. We got another one in the 79th minute. In the 87th, Di Pardo comes in for Kulishevsky. And then 89th minute, CR7 counters it. He seals it on a counter that started with Bentancur winning the ball in our half, carrying it forward, finding Ronaldo over there, and Ronaldo slotting home with his left. That's 3-0. Bentancur had a solid match, in my opinion. Bentancur had a really, really good match. The thing with Bentancur is, what's his next match going to look like? That's my question with Bentancur, because while I think it's harsh of many that have been saying, he's just simply not good enough, he's just a bang average midfield, I don't necessarily agree. I think there's a combination of things. Number one, the role that he needs to interpret is probably not one suited to him, but I think he is a good midfielder. His consistency, though, is all over the place, and part of it will have to do with the role that he needs to play and everything like that. But I thought he was solid in this match. Good to see him get that assist. 94th minute, PK for Spezia on a Demiral challenge in the area. Szczesny ends up denying it regardless. They go to VAR. It wasn't called originally. They go to VAR, call it. I looked at this thing and I thought, my God, never a PK. They break it down, and I could see the forward's foot on the outside of the ball, and as the Demiral comes through, he clips in and kind of goes through the foot, gets the ball. But basically, it's become the same across Serie A. If you are coming from the side or slightly behind a forward, it's like they are just calling everything in that regard. I thought this was still pretty soft, but I can see why they called it. But I'm still thinking that's pretty chintzy. And tell me again that Juve gets all the calls. Tell me that one again. What do you guys think about that PK?
No, I mean, it's not a penalty. It's not a penalty. I hear what you say when you break it down frame by frame. Yeah, he comes from the side, but it's got to be more contact. It's got to be more. It's got to be more of a foul. It's not enough of a foul to warrant a penalty. Absolutely not. 5 years ago, that's not given.
Yeah,
it's just not. It's got to be meaningful contact. He gets enough of the ball for me. You can argue of half a split second before it's a little bit of the attacker's foot. That's nonsense. It's not a penalty. Absolute rubbish. But you can't go 90 minutes now without doing a VAR decision against Juventus, whether it's an offside. They tried their best with the first goal, but there was no way they could spin that. So it ends up with the penalty decision, which is absolutely ridiculous. I was surprised they didn't pull it back and have another look to make sure Szczesny wasn't off of his line when the penalty was taken as well.
Yeah. Do you agree, Colin?
I do. Look, I'll be honest. I didn't watch it back on the super slow-mo camera, freeze frame, and all this crap.
Yeah.
But I felt just like Rob said, he got enough of the ball. He didn't go through the man. Like, you can't say he went through the man. He just didn't. He seemed fairly, careful about his challenge, and I just saw his reaction. You can usually tell by a player's reaction, and he was genuinely, what the absolute fuck? Yeah. What can I do? What else can I do?
Yeah.
And
I agree. And we seal the game as 3-0. Again, the biggest thing with this one was the 3 points. Okay, absolutely had to get the 3 points, especially after the draw to Verona. It's not all lost by any means. There's a lot of talk that it's over, whatnot. It is not lost by any means. So we just absolutely have to get things rolling here and keep these points coming. But my God, I don't like hearing this. It's all over. I mean, 7 points out, and we still have to play Merda again in the season and whatnot. And I'm telling you, there's still an interesting decision that needs to come from that Lazio and tampering with those results. So, geez, I tell you, if all of a sudden that goes the right way and we're 4 points out and we still have to play those guys, just hang on, buckle up. So, while we're recording this live, news just broke out, and Intio actually came as well. Juventus has just made the acquisition of Weston McKennie permanent from Schalke, 18.5 million euros payable over 3 years. This is a fantastic piece of business, in my opinion. What we need to do is get the guy back to 100%. But this was a good piece of business, man. This is a guy that's energy when he's not 100%, the energy's still there. Like I still saw him working in this one, working hard, doing what he needs to do. Again, I do agree with you guys. There's a noticeable shift when he's on that left side as opposed to the right side. But the guy's he's a good player all around. He's a threat in the air. He is very good at timing his runs into the area and getting involved in the attack. And in the defensive phase, he's just got that energy and that tenacity to just keep fighting and battling. I really, really like this move. Good piece of business. You guys agree? Weston McKennie, 18.5, payable over 3 years, permanent.
Great bit of business. Interesting so that's about six and a bit million a season. And what have we paid so far? I don't know. I suppose the loan is just for this year. So yeah, it's really good business. I wonder what his contract would be as well. Does that include a change in contracts? I'm not sure, but
I'm not sure. I know that now he's taken to Juve until 2025. Still waiting to see any terms to go up, but
I doubt it's going to be massive anyway. I'll be honest, because he's just starting out, and he seems happy to be where he is. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy who's going to be going, "Oh, hold on a minute, I need an extra 10 million here now." So.
There are some incentives. I guess there's some incentives. It could go up potentially another 6.5 million euros is what it's reported based on conditions over the course of that contract. So obviously some incentive type bonuses or whatnot. So we'll see what ends up happening there. But I think, good piece of business there. Let's get to back to the task at hand with player performances in this particular one. And first off, let's go with man of the match. Let's start with Rob. Rob, who was your man of the match for Juve in this one against Spezia?
Tempting to give it to Bernardeschi is coming on as the substitute and changing the game. But I'm actually going to go for Demiral.
Oh, nice one.
He held his own without any support, without De Ligt or Bonucci next to him. He gave the penalty away, but we've discussed there wasn't a penalty.
Yeah,
and he's still a rough diamond. He still makes mistakes. He's not perfect, and unlike some of what people suggest, he's not the second coming of Maldini, but he is a good player. He's a good young player, and he impressed me. Just. This is what we're saying about the midfield. Somebody that takes the initiative, somebody that understands they're wearing the Juventus shirt, and goes on there, and puts their big boy pants on and becomes a man on the pitch, and that's what he did.
Yeah, I like that. Colin, your man of the match?
It was a close one for me, but I had to give it to Bernardeschi just because of the impact he made. And how significant it is of an improvement for him, you know what I mean? I barely saw a mistake from him. That's normally I'm having to ignore like 5 or 6 mistakes before I, see something good. I'm like, it's just Bernardeschi, it's Bernardeschi. And then, we might get something out of him, but there was nothing really. I mean, defensively, he fought very, very hard. He's still working on his positional sense, as a fullback, but bombing down the wing. He's got oodles of pace. He's obviously involved in 2 goals. Yeah, so the other one closely behind him for me, and I didn't hear a lot of people talking about it, was Alexandro. For me, I thought Sandro was, like, as you said, Rob, at the start, or maybe it was Al, with the switch at the last minute.
Yeah.
I think everybody was a bit nervous. Do you know what I mean? And like one of the real positives from the first half for me was 10 or 15 minutes into the game, I forgot about that completely. It was kind of like, I'm not really worried about it. He was making challenges. He was actually playing some nice long passes, obviously the one for the goal, but he played quite a few others as well. I watched it back, and plenty of interceptions in the box, plenty of headed clearances. There was one even he blocked, or kind of blocked/intercepted an attempted bicycle kick from Ghazi, a ball that came in from the left-hand side. This was in the second half, and he just threw his head in there, kind of Chiellini-esque, and it was good. I was pleasantly surprised. I know a lot of people have been saying, and you've included in the agenda, that maybe it's time for him to play centre back.
Yeah,
But
we're gonna definitely dive into that one here for sure. Yeah, man of the match. He could definitely be in there. I had Demiral, Bentancur, and Bernardeschi as my kind of ones I was rotating in there. I thought Bentancur, for all the shit and abuse he takes, I don't think there was enough praise when he did do a solid job. And in this one, he did do a solid job in the middle there. He was great in this one in both phases. But I tend to, for the impact and almost immediately, I probably edge it to Bernardeschi, and he's a guy that needs that man of the match. Even Bentancur would need it too. I kind of just edged it to Bernardeschi. It was fantastic. My question now becomes, can Bernardeschi give us the same against better opposition? I want to see him have that confidence to start running at a defender no matter what team he plays for, no matter who the name is across from you. When he has those isolated 1v1s, he needs to take them on. He needs to bring that Bernardeschi far more often.
Yeah.
Here's just another one of what we expect from him. Here's another glimpse of it. So you can add that to Atletico Madrid. You can add that to a match he had against his former club Fiorentina in like his first season with us. You can add that to I think one other showing. So we just need that Bernardeschi to come, not the one that's tripping over his own feet on the corner line, right? So that's the burner we need. Bentancur, same goes for Bentancur. We need that Bentancur steady and throughout, because if we're honest with ourselves, this midfield and whatnot, even when Artur returns or whatnot, and still a lot of question marks there. There's literally like no timetable right now for Artur. If he comes back this season, whatnot, Bentancur will still be required. So we need this guy to start piling up these types of performances. It's hard though too, because everybody forgets he's got an injury and he's played through it. He's had to play through it because of the lack of options. So while we're so hard on him, this guy has given everything, and I kind of do feel for him because he hasn't had the opportunity to get the rest. And if we even look back to last season, the minutes were massive throughout for a guy like Bentancur. He's 22, 23 years old still. He's racking up minutes. Kulishevsky as well. Here's a guy that I don't think expected the amount of minutes that he's been getting with Juve. I don't think anybody expected it. So the fact that he's doing it, and now as one of the two up top, he's trying to learn a new role as well as racking up minutes. It's tough. I've got some lenience towards him, but I think he needs to pick it up too. So we'll see how the guys do. Now it becomes a race to fitness. So we got Lazio coming up on the weekend. It'll be interesting to see. We will dial into that a little bit more too as we go. Let's start going to some of these topics. Sandro, we got into that a bit. Is it time to make the switch to center back? So in terms of Alexandro, for me, it was night and day in terms of how I was feeling about his play. When I see him as a wing back, I think he's kind of lost a step in terms of pace. I think the support's not there. I see him good defensively. So for me, it makes sense. It might be time for him to be used as that center back. What do you guys think? Who wants to kick us off on this one? Maybe Rob?
Yeah. I think in terms of what Pirlo expects from his wing play, from his wing backs, he doesn't suit the system anymore. He's lost half a yard of pace. I think similarly to Danilo, it may well be time for him to start playing more centrally if we need him. What I think is clear is that in the summer there needs to be a decision made on who we recruit for the left wing back position, or left back, or whatever you want to call it. Because at the moment, I don't think he's the answer. And we saw yesterday that that he can offer something defensively. Maybe if we just give him that job to do, just go on the left hand side of the centre of the back three. Offer out the shape from playing from the back. It's good to have a left-footed left centre half.
Yeah.
Chiellini can't play more than 5 minutes every 3 months. So as long as he gives us that option on the left to open up the play, but in terms of left wing back, he's done for me.
Yeah, and I tend to agree. So the interesting thing, if we do that, if you still line him up on the left side, but you hold him back as being that left central back as we make that shift into our offensive phase, that could unlock Cuadrado further up the pitch as well. We know Cuadrado can't go to the left side, but once Cuadrado comes back, that would give him even more freedom. And it gives Pirlo another option, because you could still have technically Danilo on the right side. You could play Cuadrado ahead of Danilo, which actually has worked out great for us as well when you have one in front of the other. That puts Chiesa on a wing where he's not as strong for whatever reason from left to right. He's one of those other guys we talked about earlier in the match that kind of shifts. So it kind of gives you a good solution at the back and on that right side, but it also, do we make Chiesa a little bit less effective? In my personal opinion, I would be fine with Chiesa starting to be one of those two up top, and I'd like to see it. So now all of a sudden, if we want to use Sandro as a left-sided, we shift into the center back system, the three at the back. Sandro's on the left. You have your two main center backs, Danilo, Cuadrado, and Chiesa as one of those top guys. Could potentially be very, very strong. Very, very strong. But the other thing is, CR7 isn't going anywhere. And if Morata's healthy, I think still Morata is that strongest option, right? But it's just another setup for Pirlo to kind of try. And he is saying, though, that he does not see Chiesa as one of those top two. But I think, man, I don't know. I see this kid, the drive, the determination, the ability to take guys on, the absolute nightmares he poses for defenders. I think, man, you get that guy in that danger zone as much as you possibly can. But Colin, your thoughts on the setup and with Sandro there?
I think Sandro, obviously I've already said I thought he did really well last night. Can he play there going forward? I mean, yeah, of course he can. We're racking up the injuries. Like, he may have to play there on Saturday. It could be.
Yeah.
So I mean, and would I be confident? I'd be happy enough based on last night, but we'll see. See how it develops. I suppose it was only Spezia.
Yes. Yeah.
So to take that into account as well, even though they put it up to us, it's still only Spezia. They're battling relegation.
I think in terms of our injuries, though, as well, and like even if Chiellini comes fit, which when he eventually does, it's just another way to work around resting the guys and not having those guys just chew up minutes and re-aggravating an injury or getting hurt again. So the fact that Sandro can provide that too is something that maybe we also might have underutilized in a sense too, right? It's tough because while we speculate all these things, we're also in a situation where we left so little margin for error, right? So I can't help but feel Pirlo's always like, no, best 11 at that moment and go with it, and factoring in some trust, and that kind of plays into some of the younger guys and whatnot. But Pirlo took a lot of flack as of late for a young, talented midfielder not coming in, but then it's reported that he's ill. So, there's always some context and maybe some things that we're not always fully aware of as well, right? But for the most part, it's hard to really put things all down to Pirlo. But this is a question now coming up, and I want to ask you guys right before we get to the next topic. But if we do happen to, which I don't think it's going to happen, but the talk is even people that were for keeping Pirlo, no matter results or anything. And it's been reported now by many, and Mirko Di Natale as well, that he has the full backing of the management to continue on regardless of what happens. They have committed to a project that Pirlo is a part of. Should we fall out of the Champions League spots, should he still remain? That's my question to you guys right now.
Well, yeah. I mean, if that's the project we're going for, you have to understand. I'm sure there were no illusions when we had in the summer available keep Sarri. Pochettino was still available, and at the time we could have even gone back to Allegri. We had options to change, but Agnelli wanted Andrea Pirlo. He knows he's an inexperienced coach, and he knew that due to COVID, our recruitment is not going to be able to plug all the gaps that need plugging, and there's going to need to be some understanding around that. If we finish outside the top four, we finish 5th or 6th. Unless we're going to invest a whole load of money we don't have, I don't see a miracle work around the corner that's going to come in and change things for us. I think he deserves. I don't know about you guys. I would be in favour of keeping him, unless, I mean, performances have to be with it as well, and we need to be seeing that there is some translation of his ideas on the pitch, and there needs to be some improvement along the way as well.
Yeah,
and as long as the players look like they're still with the manager and not against him, then
there you go. So
we're a team in transition this year, and sometimes teams in transitions fail.
Yeah, Colin, do you agree?
Yeah, I do, and I think Rob, you hit the nail on the head there. Obviously it's a long-term project. You have to buy into it, otherwise you're just as much at fault. In terms of the club, the board, you have to support the guy and realize it is you're talking a few years here. Do you know what I mean? For a new philosophy and system to be put in, and for Pirlo to actually put the team together that he wants, because he's inherited a team here as well. You got to take that into account.
Yeah,
he's only picked out 1 or 2 players, but he's got the dressing room. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and that's the key.
Here's a comment, and AJ, Allegri, win the treble or you're out. Pirlo, finish top 6, win nothing, and you're still fine. So we can make these comments. We can do this. But again, for me, it always comes down to the context and perspective. So Allegri had become stale. It's not just win the treble or you're out. It was stale. It was fading. I believe he had lost the influence. And some argue he had lost the influence from Cardiff.
Okay? Yeah, halftime in Cardiff. Yeah.
He had lost the influence. So it's not the same to just be like Pirlo finish top 6, win nothing, and you're still fine. It's the context. We're not in this win now mode, which we were at that time. So as many as people need to, I think, grasp that is that Juventus is not in a win now mode right now. And it's kind of crazy to think that we are, because we aren't. We are in a transition. We are on the brink of a complete rebuild, possibly. That could still be something. And I think the only reason it isn't as big a rebuild is because the fact that the market dictates it can't be, because of the lost revenue, because of COVID going on. So all these moves that I think Juve would do or would have even done by now have been handcuffed. And honestly, like these past mercados have all been incredibly important, but we've been handcuffed, and I keep saying that next mercado is big for Juve in terms of the shift that we're trying to move. But my fear is we're not going to be able to do that. We're not going to be able to do that because of the lost revenue, and nobody's buying. The guys we need to move, I don't think we're going to be able to do so in a manner that's going to help us get this roster to where we need it to be. But to compare that moment in time with Allegri and Pirlo now is night and day. And you can't. You're going from a team that was right there, and you bring in Ronaldo, you think that's the piece, and you find out, holy shit, it's not. It's not, and it's not even close. Everything's become stale, flat. You need to freshen up the roster, but then you realize you can't. You can't because guys have cushy pays. They're comfortable. They don't want to take moves, and nobody wants the guys. So the guys that you have all this value in have no value to other clubs. And Juve got caught in a sense.
Yeah,
those business moves. That's essentially what happened. But I can't think, that headline, Allegri win the treble, you're out. Pirlo finish top 6, win nothing. It's too.
No. I don't know who said that.
A scenario.
I don't think anyone actually said that, but Allegri's 5 years down the line. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then a mistake happens. So for someone saying that, I don't know where they're going with it, but if they're kind of push for Pirlo to not be given time, it's kind of like, well, you need to look at what you just said. Allegri was given 5 years, and then the style of play wasn't good enough, and he got shifted. So
yeah,
and also it's important to note that Allegri and Agnelli remain on very good terms, and I like Allegri a lot as well. It was the end of a relationship. They both reached the end, and they parted on good terms. You remember the post, sacking, or the post when he's left. They were on very good terms. Unfortunately, it's just one of those things. It's like the end when you leave your girlfriend. It's the same thing. You might, it gets stale.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, this is business. Like their personal relationship and whatnot. It is what it is, but it's just business. The board have a lot to answer. This coming in from Antonio. The board have a lot to answer for. They have literally surrounded CR7 with players not adapted to build around him. Now, with a year left on his contract, we have ruined any chance of win now.
Win what?
Again, that ties into where we thought we were and where we actually were, right? So it's just that's the case. Abdul coming in. Do you think management set Pirlo up for success or disaster? I don't think that they set Pirlo up for anything, to be honest. I think what will determine if they set him up for success is the commitment to him. If this report is true, that, hey, we've got you, you've got our full support. We're keeping you around. We're going to try to get you the guys you want. Then I think ultimately you are setting them up for success because you're committing to them. And I think if they're willing to be in a situation where, we don't take home certain trophies and they still say, yeah, you're our guy. That's setting a guy up for success. I don't know if I'd say they set him up for disaster, because the roster, while I think it's not up to snuff for a team that's taken that much money from Champions League in a decade, it's still nothing to laugh about. And I mean, it's still good enough to win Serie A by any means. So I don't think they necessarily set him up for disaster, but I think it's tough to say, have you set a first-time manager really up for anything? Because some could say that Pirlo set his career on fire by taking such a hot seat job for his first gig. So
if it doesn't go well, he's screwed. Yeah,
management set Pirlo up. Did Pirlo make a big error? Should possibly be the question. And I've actually seen some that have said, shame on Pirlo. He should have known better than accept the job. I did see that reaction from a Juventino, and I thought, wow, I've never looked at it that way or thought to by any means. And to be honest with you, if I just look big picture, like just break it down really, really simple for me, you have a team that is struggling to find an identity, losing the way we were, that fight, that fino alla fine, where it started to feel like it was just that, a set of words put together. But then you have a guy that came and led the revolution, led that in 2011-12 and knows what it's all about and can speak to it. And now he's the leader in the locker room and whatnot. It makes sense from that standpoint for the players to be attached to someone like that. He's got close relationships with the leaders on the team, and it's about bringing that identity back. And especially after the stain of Sarri being, a part of Juve, it's like, let's get back to who we are. Let's get a guy that fits us, and then go from there or whatnot. And it might have just so happened that his belief in football, players, his thesis, whatnot, was fitting of the movement they wanted to make and the change of philosophy. So I think it has all that. But yeah, I mean, maybe Pirlo took on a bit too much. I got to say, if I was a first-time manager, I don't know if I'd jump to a big club right out of the gate. That's ballsy.
Yeah, it's ballsy. Yeah, it's ballsy. I don't know whether I agree with that. I don't agree with the sentiment that he should have known better not to take it, and therefore he should have politely declined because he didn't want to bring Juventus to a position where he couldn't. We're talking about a World Cup winner, Champions League winner. League winner. He's done everything, and you can say, he hasn't done it as a manager, but he obviously believes in his abilities. It's different for me being offered the Juventus job and me because I've done brilliant on Football Manager because I'll make a hash of it. But this is somebody who's got tons and tons of experience in the field. Who turns around to their boss and says, "I won't have a," because he obviously was just appointed under 23 boss. Who turns around to the president or the chairman, and even in their own careers, and says, "No, I don't fancy that promotion." No one does that.
Yeah. It was an interesting take, and I just thought, man, I never once would it have crossed my mind for him to, to say shame on him for taking it. And for me, I just looked at it from day one like that is a ballsy move for him to start there.
It's ballsy for sure.
It's great. He literally didn't even have his ticket. He did not even have his coaching ticket, and he took the job. And it was like, wow, it's crazy. And there are some that criticize the club and say, look, you brought in a first-time manager and use that to them. It's a tough one. It is a tough one when you look at it because you could say, well, is this kind of their way to relieve the pressure of the expectations and use this as a way to gain patience from the supporters and whatnot, say, hey, we're in this transition? I think now, I think it's too early to make any type of call. I think we really need to see where the dust settles at the end of the season to see what was truly behind management's thought process, because let's figure out where we end in the table and everything like that. Let's see what happens in Champions League. And then I think we could really start to gauge what the mold was and what they're trying to accomplish, right? But it's just interesting. It's really interesting discussion, and to see how people are looking at it. And I kind of wanted to talk about Pirlo's words, and this kind of ties into how people their perspective is on the whole situation and whatnot, because Pirlo literally comes out and says Juventus still believe in the Scudetto, and that this is Juventus, and people were going nuts. They were going nuts and ridiculing and saying, like, oh, come on, are you clown? Like, it's over, whatnot. And I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, guys. Again, going back to the identity that we were losing in one turn. If you are and this is so funny too, because we talked about it earlier when we were talking about who was it? The identity. You're talking about the identity. And if people are complaining that Juve started to lose their identity, we're losing who we were and whatnot. And we talked about earlier, people claiming he had lost the dressing room and whatnot. In the same aspect, you have a guy who wants to bring Juve back to what they were. Okay. He wants to bring them back to what they were, wants to get that identity back. Who gives a shit when he's saying that stuff? Of course he's going to say that. Do you want him to come out in an interview and say, hey, all my players are shit? Do you want him to be that manager? Do you want him to make comments like Conte did, saying, oh, well, I have players from Sassuolo and Cagliari? You fucking idiot. That player from Cagliari is your best midfielder by a country mile, okay? So it's like, I don't want him to turn into this guy that's doing that. I'm fine with him making comments that match the identity we are trying to achieve and maintain. I'm perfectly fine with that. Morata's words, okay, where he comes out and says, if you do not believe in Juventus, simply don't turn on your television. Don't watch us or whatnot. So I like the word. I have no problem with him saying that.
No problem.
My issue is I want to see that same attitude and mentality throughout the lineup. And I want Pirlo to maintain that. I want that to be evident on the pitch throughout each player, because it simply hasn't been. And it's up to Pirlo, and this is my criticism of him, it's up to Pirlo to make sure that the guys on the pitch are there. And if they're not, you need to look at alternatives, or you need to find out how to get them there, because there are far too many matches where you have half the lineup that look borderline disinterested. These are my thoughts on these words. Your guys, how do you feel about when people are reacting to some of these comments, and even Dell's here saying talk is cheap. I agree, talk is cheap in terms of Morata's words. In Pirlo's, I think they should still believe, because I still believe. We're only 7 points out, and we still have to play Merda. If we think it's over now, we're not Juventus.
What,
So how do you guys feel about this and these discussions and these words and people latching onto them and whatnot? Like, what are you guys' thoughts when you hear these types of things?
Children, bedwetters. Absolutely. This club, as you just said, our whole ethos, our whole values until the end. Yeah. You cannot. When you've got a gap, I know the gap is what it is at the moment, and we haven't been playing anywhere near as well as we have been in the preceding 9 years. But unless you believe, and unless you want to embody those values yourself as a fan, then don't bother.
Yeah.
Criticize. There's no problem in criticizing. You can criticize. You're a fan. You pay your money. You take your choice. Criticize as much as you want. That's fine. Your opinion is your opinion, but don't say, "Oh, we're done. We're dead." The phrases you get from people who were born this century. I sound like an old man now, but a dead team. Bury them, and it's crap. Grow up. Listen to those words. I would like to see a little bit more on the pitch as well, of course.
Yeah.
I did at one moment that did get on my nerves a little bit was before the Porto game in the tunnel. They showed the players in the tunnel hugging and high-fiving the Porto players before they went out on the pitch, and that really wound me the fuck up. Because I went, so this is a big game. I don't want you to look at them. I don't want you to smile at them. Don't even. I think Roy Keane said it a few years ago when he was talking about Manchester United players hugging Liverpool players. He says, don't even talk to them after the match. Just ignore them. We're going to war.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see a little bit more of. But in terms of us as fans, keep believing, because this Juventus, if you know the history, if you know the team, this is the team that will surprise you more than anything else.
Yeah. For me, if I was going to lose that sense of belief, it would be like, I don't want to go through the motions watching a match. Like that belief that writing it out. And I mean, honestly, like the stretch we are on is absolutely ridiculous. There was seasons we didn't win the Scudetto every season. Like I've been a fan for a hell of a long time. And it's just like what we've done right now is absolutely ridiculous. It's a crazy run. And that's why again, you have to sit back and you have to have perspective on the situations. In all the years I've supported, I've never seen an injury list like this. I've never seen that. You have COVID into the mix. It's absolutely unprecedented. And then it's just wild. But Georg here coming in, and I tend to agree, the title race for us will be decided, in his opinion, on the 16th, which is the Lazio verdict, and the 17th, Napoli. Never say never, but those are crucial moments, and they really are. And again, the other teams, it's getting to that crunch time, and we know when things start to heat up, they could crumble too. So it's just like you just never know. And anytime Conte's in the mix, I feel like there's like an implosion that could take place at any particular time. So just
definitely
hold on to that belief. And again, if you're frustrated with what you're seeing on pitch, we're frustrated at times too. But again, it's just, I was frustrated. I've been frustrated with the play for 3 seasons now, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah.
But again, it's that, belief that, they're going to get things right. They're going to make the right moves. And I'm starting to see this shift on the player signings. And let's give them the chance, because all of a sudden, if they're linked with the right guys, if we're being honest, they're linked with the right guys. I think they just kind of lost track at one point because they put their eggs in this Ronaldo basket thinking the team was of a higher quality. And I think they realized that they weren't. And I think now they're starting to shift that business and start to look more at player traits that need to fit. So it's a bit of a transition for everyone, not Pirlo, not the players, but upper management as well. The entire team is making a shift. And I'm really starting to see that. We just need to be patient. I mean, if we lose a Scudetto one season, it's not the first time, and it ain't going to be the last time we don't get a Scudetto in a season. So we got to come to terms at some point, right? But you have to commit to being better everywhere. We can't just throw it to the players. We can't just throw it to the coach. You got to hold management, upper management accountable too, and they need to be better as well. And I honestly see a movement where that's starting to happen. Injury updates. So injury updates. De Ligt apparently could be available for Lazio, should be available for Lazio, but may not play depending on Bonucci, because Bonucci and Cuadrado are slated to be in the mix. And if that's the case, they might rest De Ligt. Porto, Chiellini should be back for Porto. And then, of course, De Ligt should be ready for that as well, especially if he's ready for Lazio. We got Lazio coming up on the weekend. We all remember Conte's decision to set up a rescheduled match for Napoli. Then you have Lazio, Torino, essentially in the same debacle. Torino did not travel. You have a team that showed up for a match. The other team has a travel. It is what it is. Yeah. While people are going at the league, you have to realize that first thing, they actually awarded the win to Juventus 3-0. They were making Napoli show up. Napoli didn't. It was Conte, was the association that actually the appeal went to that changed it. So you have to realize it was not Serie A when you're going out of the league and whatnot. Yeah. This scenario is ridiculous. Now you have teams like Parma, Cagliari, who are ready to go nuts, and rightfully so, because they've played and they've suffered without guys. And it's an ugly, ugly precedent that Conte set. And now you have Napoli also wanting to reschedule a match yet again. The whole thing, for me, they should have never set that precedence. Already at that time, when Conte decided to make that decision, you had multiple teams that were playing without key guys. You should have never, ever done that. And now this whole thing, Torino knows that they can appeal and that they'll probably get rewarded a replay, which is bullshit. Yeah. Absolute bullshit. And then it's the trickle-down effect. You have Lazio that hasn't played now, going into this big weekend matchup against us, fully rested, able to heal up. It's the whole domino effect that makes a mess of things. And my fear at the time when Coney had done that was now other teams know that worst case scenario, they can do this and set appeals. How do you guys think about this whole situation? This is pretty much where we're wrapping up as we lead up for Lazio. So your thoughts, Colin, and then we'll get Rob's take on the whole scenario.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to know what way it's going to go. The Lazio situation. I mean, about the Lotito and the tests. I mean, that court case. That's I just can't see how that's going to end up without punishment, severe punishment for Lazio. Even beyond the sporting side of it. I mean, if it's proven that they've actually conned the health authorities and given, false reports of results, then Jesus, how can you do that? Torino definitely have a case to bring for either those games to be replayed. But it just feels like it's going to turn into a shit show.
Yeah.
I'll be totally honest. I've expected it for quite a while. I've been surprised that we got through a busy schedule in January and beforehand, without more games being affected. And that precedent that they set, I don't know what to say. It was a joke. For me, I don't know. It just feels like there was a protocol that was signed up to at the start. Everybody knew everything that was entailed in it, and they've thrown it out the fucking window. The government has gotten involved. I mean, and it's I heard Napoli kind of saying that, yeah, well, they didn't quite agree with parts of the protocol, and that
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't fucking matter. You signed
exactly.
it.
It just doesn't matter. And the fact that there's a conflict of interest between De Laurentiis and that leader of the ASL, that right there is just
bosom buddies,
disaster that they set up, and they allowed that. Coney allowed that to essentially happen. So it's just absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, your thoughts, Rob?
My thoughts are, I would love to win the Scudetto on a technicality. That would be I would absolutely love it. I would love to see it, and I'd love to see Conte rip off that toupee and stamp all over it in the Meazza. That would be my ideal Scudetto win. But
there you go. There you have it. And on that note, we're going to wrap up. And that was awesome. That would be a fantastic way to see this thing all end after what is really just a shit show of a season, and just no expectations because it's so unprecedented. But that would be funny. Last and certainly not least, there was some Juve Twitter uproar, and nobody really knew all the details and what it was about. And I like to call it the Gin-Soaked Boy Chronicles. Basically, for those of you that did not know what took place, there was someone amongst Juve Twitter that's been part of it for years. And he was known as this particular name. And it turns out, randomly, through a group chat, it was uncovered that for all these years, he was not who he said he was. And the list of stories was absolutely hilarious. And if you start to think about your involvements with this particular account, I know mine were quite funny. And then I thought, wow, it really makes sense that he was a psychopath and a complete fake identity and a catfish. However, not all the stories were funny. And some were actually very, very sad, involving younger females and the solicitation of photos and whatever. So, that's essentially what it was all about. Not all the stories, as more and more becomes uncovered. At the start, it was very, very funny, and there was a lot of humor to it. When you started looking at these stories, there are some very, very sad and disturbing stories involved in it as well. So I just want to remind everybody, while you're out there, remember some of that with social media, and still, kind of protect yourself and just be smart. And the best way to feel safe is come on the All Juvecast, because we'll use this as a Juve Twitter identification, verification, we'll call it. Okay. So if basically, I don't think you're real unless you come on the podcast. Let's put it that way. So that's essentially what the Gin Soaked Boy Chronicles were. One of the accounts was Gin Soaked Boy. There was Juve Grinch. There was Nico. There was a lot of these accounts. It was all the same guy, but it was all fake. And turns out he's a 50-year-old married with 3 kids running this whole scam thing. So that's essentially what it was all about for those of you that had no idea. But again, my thoughts go out to the ones that were duped to doing a lot of strange things. So again, play it safe. And again, nobody's going to believe you unless you come on the podcast. So follow, subscribe, and we'll talk to you all after Lazio. Rob, been an absolute pleasure. Colin, same goes for you. Thanks everybody who joined live. And for fuck's sakes, guys, fino alla fina. Don't stop believing. Okay, do not stop believing. Fino alla fine. Forza Juve. Until next time. Ciao tutti.
Bye-bye.